Hey guys, this is Ben Tarver, the Youth and Family Pastor at First Baptist Church. This is our Parenting Through Proverbs series, video series. And these devotions, as we look chapter by chapter, we're kind of picking out a main theme from the chapter, but it's also contained in other places in the book of Proverbs and throughout the Bible. And when we think about these lessons, they're also, we apply them not only to our children, but to ourselves as well. When we look at chapter 4, verses 1 through 4, it reads, "Hear, O sons, a father's instructions, and be attentive, that you may gain insight. For I give you good precepts. Do not forsake my teaching. When I was a son with my father, tender, the only one in the sight of my mother, he taught me and said to me, let your heart hold fast my words and keep my commandments and live." And then also from Proverbs 3, 11 through 12, "Do not despise the Lord's instruction, my son, and do not loathe his discipline. For the Lord disciplines the one he loves, just as a father, the son he delights in." These themes, there's two ways of living, and this is brought about in chapter 4 of Proverbs, and also it's brought about in other parts of Scripture, especially the wisdom literature. You can live the wise and the straight and narrow path, knowing where your footfalls will go, because the Lord directs that, and you're focusing on the Lord, and you're focusing in on the teaching of your parents and of the teaching of your instructors and godly men and women in your life. Or you can follow the foolish path and not follow the wisdom of the Lord, not follow the wisdom of your mother and father. Who instructs us? Who corrects us? Now, first off, we as Christians, we think of the Lord instructing us and correcting us. And we learn that through his word. And that's what we're doing right now through the study. But there's also, godly men and women that we put right up there that lead us because they are directing us towards the Lord. They direct us towards Christ. None of us can model that perfectly as a teacher and instructor, but that's our intent. That's our motivation, is to direct people towards the Lord. And as fathers and as mothers, grandparents, that's what we want for our children. We want to model Christ to them so they see that reflected in us and through our teachings and through our correction. That word correction and even teaching sometimes, we like to do our own thing, especially children will fight against this, and we as adults, if we're honest, we fight against this. We want to do our own thing. We don't want to be corrected. We will have a tendency, and it's sin a lot of times. It's selfishness and pride that we don't want to hear that, and we want to resist and go our own way. And, correction and teaching from Proverbs 3, do not despise the Lord's instruction. And also we need to listen to the wisdom of godly men and women. And we need to be that to the next generation in our households. Now, we need to learn a little bit about the physical brain and how that develops. Part of that is our rational thought processes and our brain. It's not fully developed until about the age 25. That's the average age that a brain is fully developed and fully thinking through rational thoughts. So just think about that. Through puberty, through adolescent's brain, as they are still developing from childhood on through the teenage years, the brain, it gets about the full size about the age 6, 95% of its size. But throughout that afterwards, after the age of 6, it is still going through a process called pruning, where it's learning, it's developing, it's learning from mistakes, it's learning basically through its human emotions and through thought processes how to rationalize and think things through. And the prefrontal cortex, the front of the brain, is the last part that goes through that pruning process. So, kind of more into the 20s. And that's the part of the brain, the front part of the brain, is the part that's really directed towards decision making. And so, when we're thinking about teenagers and we're thinking about some of the just the struggles emotionally and going through the emotions and decisions during that age, and sometimes not even understanding how we're feeling and making, we as parents may be looking back and saying, well, that was very irrational. It's because that brain sometimes is going through that pruning process and learning process. So we just need to be aware of that as we're making correction, as we're teaching. There's going to be different ways we approach things to a child that we do differently, years down the road as they go into the teenage years and even early adulthood. What that does, it affects the way we parent, the way we teach, the way we correct. Parents need to give children very narrow limits. They need guardrails and very narrow guardrails. This is what we're doing today. This is what we're eating. There can be some decisions you give along the way, some incentives, for listening to those first set of things that you're supposed to do. But you need to slowly give that power over to them and not give everything away. That's kind of illustration I've heard is handing over the keys. You don't need to hand over the keys to every decision. Let a child decide what they're going to eat, when they're going to bed. Children need more structure in general to develop, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing. And then as over time, as they get older and get into middle school and teenage years, on into high school, then you can give them the keys to some things. And thinking about high school, you literally eventually, and this could be a scary thing, hand over the keys to an automobile. But that's after they have learned the rules, regulations of what it takes to obey the law, and then how to be safe in a vehicle, how to keep others safe. There's a lot that goes into it. And as a parent, you want to be with them through that process, help them along the way in studying what they need to know about the rules of the road, and then also, test driving. So it's kind of like that. Take that scenario, but in the other areas. Where you give decisions. I said in another video, a previous video, that our girls were asking about getting an allowance. And so we've kind of set up a system in the past few weeks to give an allowance. And now we're giving them an incentive for the things they make. We've talked about tithing. We've talked about tithing, about what you make, and saving. So, there's things that they're saving for. But there's also incentive that they get that they've earned this money, and if they want to get an ice cream cone from ice cream truck in Augusta, and they did that a couple weeks ago, then we allow them to do that, and that's they were so proud of that moment because they had earned that, and they had to go through those guardrail things. You're not going to spend all your money on this. You're not going to do this or use it for this. So they had to go through that, but it was really a freeing thing for them. And then for us, as adults, don't stop learning. Don't stop refining and having a mentor, someone to teach you, especially godly men and women, to pour into your life, and especially the Word of God. You need that to be a central point in your life where it overflows and you have those family devotions and times with the rest of your family. I think I would say about this, teaching and being corrected, and I would pass this along to your family members. There were a lot of opportunities in my life that if I had decided as an adolescent or as a child not to do this or not to go through this opportunity, it never would have happened. I can think of a mission trip. One of the first mission trips I went on, I was a youth, one of only 2 youth that went on this first overseas mission trip with my church. And it was something I wasn't sure about, something, I was encouraged to do, and something, I had to kind of be taught through that to actually take that opportunity. Another one was going to a church camp. I was a camp counselor, and they were in desperate need of help for counselors. And I was, asked if I wanted to do this. And at first I kind of resisted, like, I don't know if I can work with kids. And, ironically, the Lord has called me into ministry. And so he could, the Lord knows. He knows the direction of the path even before, I was kind of like Moses, but I can't speak, Lord. I can't do this for children. How could you use me? And God humbled me, and through that experience, I grew and I loved it. Another one was a scholarship. The biggest scholarship I got in college was one of the very last ones I filled out, and that was a guidance counselor at the school presenting this to me, and I was kind of done with filling out the paperwork and writing essays and backtracking, going back to to my resources and people that were going to be my references. I didn't want to do that all over again, and my guidance counselor, she was in touch with me, and she knew my mom too, and she said, you really need to do this. I think you need to do this. And I thought it was really a long shot, and ended up, I got that scholarship. And so there's opportunities before us in ministry, in mission, and sometimes just real practical stuff, getting a scholarship. And if we leave it up to children or adolescents, they might say no and really haven't thought through. They're just thinking about their comfort. They're thinking about their normal routine as they know things, and they haven't thought about the opportunity that's there to really grow, to really seek a new avenue that the Lord might open up for them. And I know that's happened in my life, and that's only happened. That's not of my own doing. That's the Lord opening doors and allowing the right people at the right time. Youth pastors and lead pastors and godly men and women at my church and guidance counselor at my school. That allowed them a voice to speak to me to step out and do that. And parents, there's sometimes we need to push them to do it anyway, even if they're fighting not to. And when we can see down the road that it's an important thing, it's an important step for them to take that they may learn from. It may be something they step out for the first time and they absolutely do not want to do it again. The camp counselor, like if I came away not wanting to do that, at least I tried, at least I did that. But there's lessons we need to teach and correct our children. I remember a sports team one time, our year was going terrible about halfway through, and I wanted to quit. And my dad really pushed me and said, "You're not quitting, you are, you've committed to this team for the full season," and kind of redirected my thoughts, and I finished out that season with the team. And I'm glad I did. During the moment, I didn't feel like that, and if it hadn't been for somebody teaching me and really correcting me in that moment, I wouldn't have taken that opportunity. So parents, we can't be hesitant. We live in a world where there's so many options, and just look at streaming services, look at digital media that's out there. A good example of this, look at the new Coke machines that are, at some of the restaurants and fast food places where you can add different flavors into like the regular choices. Those look really cool and stuff, but I've been in some long lines where people just cannot decide on what they want to do, and it's complicated things. And what I've seen over time is parents and grandparents kind of just letting the next generation go and make decisions even earlier than we did. And so we need to help guide and direct. And I'm not talking about getting a drink. I'm talking about like these life decisions and not just leave it up to them, but really give them guidance and direction, and at times correction, to let them go the right path. Because the Lord is opening doors in our lives, and we have to step through. And sometimes we can't do that alone. We need other people to guide us there and to correct us and bring us there. And so I just encourage you to do that. Prayerfully consider the opportunities that are before you and your family where you can guide others and guide your children, maybe guide your grandchild into the next opportunity, the next door. And that's for you too. What's another opportunity of your growth towards the Lord, a way you can serve at our church and in our community? And maybe you need to be helped along, talk to a pastor, talk to a Sunday school member that can help you through that. God bless.